Hello, I'm Joseph Colaneri, Music Director for the Glimmerglass Festival, and this is Keeping Time with Colaneri. In this mini-course, we will take an overview of the art of opera from its beginnings through the present day. We'll examine its forms and talk about the voices, orchestra, and most of all, the music. We'll also examine and demystify some of opera's terminology along the way. I hope this series might serve as an introduction for those new to the art form and as a review for experienced operagoers who might find themselves listening with a new set of ears. The series is presented as 6 short videos. Each video will include a playlist with links that will help illustrate some of the topics and ideas we examine. Please use these links as a guide and a portal for further listening. So, let's enter this fascinating world of storytelling and music. In our last few sessions, we discussed the development of the architecture of opera, the structure that supports the lyric theater. But at the very heart of that structure is the human voice, the singing voice. The voice, of course, is central to opera in that it conveys the words and tells the story. Now, by its very nature, and based on the physical makeup of the singer, the human singing voice can be high or low, and just about every gradation in between. The voice can be categorized into types, ranging from the very highest soprano to the lowest bass. The Italian word sopra, meaning above, is at the root of the word soprano. And the Italian basso means the bottom. In between, there are mezzo-sopranos, meaning middle soprano, contraltos. Now the root here surprisingly means high. It was originally meant to define the highest male voice, but has come to mean over a lower pitched female voice. Then there's the tenor, with the root tenere, to hold, because in early music, this vocal part was at the center of a musical composition, literally holding or sustaining the main musical line. And then there's the baritone, from the Greek, meaning low tone. Now, in addition to these basic voice types, there are many subcategories of each one. The soprano can be a coloratura capable of a lot of high notes and great agility. In fact, the word colore refers to all the notes printed on the page. There is also the lyric soprano, who sings in a more sustained manner, and the dramatic soprano, who has a large, powerful voice that can cut through the biggest orchestra. The same subtypes can be found among all the other voice categories as well. Mezzo-soprano, it seems, was a classification made toward the middle of the 19th century. Before that, sopranos and mezzos were classified altogether into one grouping. Some voices are rarer than others, such as the dramatic soprano, the dramatic tenor, and the countertenor. This is a high type of tenor voice that ranges well into alto territory. You can listen to some examples of these types in the playlists that follow this video. Over the years, it became necessary to create a classification system for the various voice types so that directors of opera houses could more easily cast singers. The Germans devised what is known as the Fach, or classification system. It contains some 29 voice types. The Italian system was a bit less complicated, and it was called the name convenienze, perhaps meaning agreements. These agreements guaranteed not only the proper voice type for a role, but also what the hierarchy would be. Most operas in the 19th century usually contained 3 principal roles, commonly a soprano, a tenor, and a baritone. If there was a 4th role, it would be a full bass or a second soprano. There were also secondary roles, usually the soprano's confidant or the messenger who brings important news. Then there was the comprimario, meaning literally with the principal. And this singer could be assigned a short aria, be part of a duet, or be involved in an ensemble, but not a big solo scene. It was important for the composer to remember that the principal singers were not to be overshadowed at any point. Star singers had a great deal of say as to what and how much they would sing, including introducing extra arias into an opera if they felt they were not properly featured. In many cases, composers were happy to oblige, not only tailoring roles for the talents of specific singers, but also composing new arias for them when the opera was revived in a different city. These extra or insert arias were called the arie di baule, meaning suitcase arias, as the music for them would be literally carried around in trunks by the various star singers to insert in operas they were performing. Sometimes these arias were written by the opera's composer, and sometimes by someone else, and oftentimes without the composer's knowledge. Singing as an art developed rapidly throughout the history of opera. Great teachers appeared who might often be ex-performers themselves. After retirement from the stage, many passed on their knowledge to the next generation, ensuring the flourishing of the art of singing. The rise of virtuoso singing from the very early days of opera was such that great feats of vocal technique were prized by audiences. Impresarios and directors of opera houses knew that by engaging one or more star singers, they all but guaranteed big sales at the box office. And this is what kept the opera companies thriving. But all this came at a price. What with the demands of the star singers for insert arias, or wearing their own personal costumes, or refusing to attend rehearsals, and the liberal performing of encores. Nowadays, we most often find ourselves in a much better situation. The cultivation of a strong ensemble spirit among cast members in an opera can ensure that everyone is working and collaborating together towards the same unified goal, or at least that's the ideal. When planning the composition of an opera, a composer must think about what voice part would be appropriate for a particular kind of dramatic role. The primary task of the composer is to discover how to use the singing voice and its colors, virtuosity, and expressive capabilities to create a specific character. The Italian system of convenienze kept the composers in a bit of a straitjacket. But as they became free of that classification system, the opportunities broadened. Basic classification characteristics included high voices to represent young or more innocent characters, low voices with their sense of gravitas were the mature wise or magical types. And often low voices were used to represent evil. The role of the devil is often represented in opera, most often as a bass voice. Heroic types were usually dramatic sopranos and tenors, and their lighter counterparts, especially the character tenor, might be a henchman. Now, as we move into the 21st century, composers have the freedom to choose among the various voice types to create exactly the kind of character they desire. Composers always keep in mind, though, that it is important to have a variety of voice types in a particular scene so that there is contrast amongst the characters, making them more easily discerned by the ear of the audience. Now, the singing voice, although central to opera, is not the only means of expressing and telling the story. Instrumentalists, as members of orchestras both large and small, are a crucial element in the art of opera. Next time, we will examine the symbiotic relationship between the voice and the orchestra in opera. Thanks for listening.